The boys are back. That's right, Florida Man Sports is here with another exciting episode. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. This is Florida Man Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Florida Man Sports.
Woo!
Let's rock and roll.
Yes, sir.
Listen, folks, it is week 2. So unless you've been under a rock, Johnny Cinco, there's a lot to get to in this NFL week 2 start off. We're always going to give it to you guys as far as what happened last week, give you some of the highlights, jump into this week's predictions, and then talk a little bit of fantasy, put a bow on it, Johnny Cinco.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Want to remind everybody, too, that we are streaming on all platforms, so please like, share, and subscribe.
iHeart, Apple Podcasts, everything.
Let's jump right into it, folks. Week 1. Jaguars and Dolphins, Johnny Cinco. The Dolphins come back, pull it off. They win 20-17. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, the Jaguars reminded us that the chokers that they were last year, and they carried it over to this season. Miami showed the flashes of how good they can be, but it was a sloppy game. We were watching this game, and we were like, yo, Jacksonville had a stranglehold on this game. They looked like they were going to take it, and then they just do what the Jaguars do. And second half, forgot to play football. Scoreless second half, completely just a debacle. The same thing. This game was perfect, a metaphor for the Jacksonville season last year, to where, first half dominant, and then the second half just no shows and disappeared. That's my biggest takeaway from this particular game. Just the same old same for Jacksonville. It's kind of what we thought, whereas I'm done. I had high hopes for Jacksonville last year, and then this game just showed me what we thought Jacksonville was going to be. That's who they are.
Well, just as a reminder, too, right? There's nothing more Florida Man Sports than this game, I think, Johnny, to start the week, right? You get Tyreek Hill, who gets arrested in the beginning, right? In the beginning of everything, he ends up in handcuffs, and then he gets an 80-yard touchdown and does the handcuff dance.
Yeah,
so
that was
if that tells you anything you need to know about Florida Man Sports and our Florida teams, that's what it is.
What's your take on the whole thing there with Tyreek, man?
It's simple. It takes two to tango. So he's just as guilty as he wants, as the narrative that social media wants you to believe. So, one of the things I don't care where you stand on this, comply, be a gentleman, be respectful. If they go above that, then guess what? You got a lawsuit in your hands.
I think there are two egos going at it. I think Tyreek didn't handle it as well as he said in his press conference and how his mom taught him whatever. But also that third cop came in and wanted to butt heads and really show hey, it's up this pissing contest, and it ended up what we all saw in the camera.
Exactly. And as far as going back to the game, Johnny, I think you nailed it best. And I also did say before this all started, I said week 1 is very unpredictable. In this case, it was the fourth quarter that did the Jags in. And, I kind of said this before. Jags have a lot of questions at wide receiver. They got to learn to play. They got to learn to mesh together, and it affected them most in the fourth quarter. So,
well, I mean, you were high on Gabe Davis. I wasn't. Really,
to get it going.
It was 1 week.
It'll take time.
But there's nothing about that. It wasn't the fourth quarter, I thought, with the Jags. They didn't score in the second half. They didn't score in the third. They didn't score in the fourth. They just went ahead and handed the game over to Miami.
You got it. I couldn't say it better myself. Moving on to the other Florida team, Johnny Cinco, the last Florida team, the Tampa Bay Bucks. They defeated the Commanders 37-20. Go Bucks. How did you see this game?
Jaden Daniels was exactly who I thought he was going to be. He's a rookie running. He played a decent game, but he's just going to run. He's going to look at his first option and run. Baker had close to a perfect game. I mean, the dude went, 24 for 30, 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns.
Honestly, a really good game. My takeaway from this is just that Washington and Jaden Daniels is exactly who I thought they were going to be. They'll win a couple games, still impressive in terms of what he can do. He's going to get you some fantasy points. Not many wins, but he's going to get you those points. Baker and Tampa played well. I guess my biggest takeaway with Tampa is that Bucky is a better running back than White. And if the Buccaneers if the Buccaneers are smart, they're going to go ahead and make that move to have him do the primary. He had roughly half as many carries.
The guy who yelled at me in the draft because I brought up Buck. Oh, because his name is Buck. Remember that part? And now he needs to replace. Now after 1 week, he needs to replace him. Listen, man, sit down. I'm not. And I mean your ego because I know you're sitting down.
I'm not going to deal with one. I've talked very plainly on how bad the running game for the Bucs was last year, ranked towards the bottom in every category. So. Then you have Bucky come in and in about roughly half as many carries, roughly double the yardage. So he ran one for about 30 yards.
That's what the second running back.
He looked better. He was explosive. White looked flat.
That is
so
what you're.
The sooner he gets in RB number 1, the better.
Okay. All right, I got to remember that you sometimes rant on and you got to finish your point. So, look, at the end of the day, folks, Bucky did what I expected him to do, and that is to be the change of pace running back. That's going to happen. You're going to have more yards. At the end of the day, you still
number
have,
2 has more yards than number 1.
At the end of the day, you still have RB1 with most total yards passing and rushing, which is what he's there for, and why he is still your RB1. But anyways, I saw the game a little bit differently. 3.7 yards per carry as a team is still something that you need to improve upon. The biggest outlier for me, I love the fact that we won, Johnny. I'll take a 37-20 win week 1 any day. But for me, folks, the injuries. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we go into predictions. But if you are a Buck fan like me, the injuries to the secondary hurts. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's, to me, my insight on the game. But
injuries are always going to hurt every team.
Great week 1. Absolutely. We move right into, Johnny Cinco, Thursday Night Football. It was actually game 1.
Okay.
It was the Ravens and Chiefs. This one delivered in the sense that it was close all up until the end. Kansas City wins 27-20. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, biggest takeaway from the game, one, it looks like, I know it's only 1 week, but that likely the tight end for Baltimore is taking over for Andrews. Whether that's going to happen throughout, week 2, but you're going to see that move over. Like, everybody always waits for something for the passing of the torch, if you will, per position, and it seemed, Lamar's looking for likely. I know that Andrews had some injury issues, but he looked good and came close to winning the game. If he's had his toe in or maybe had some white shoes on, maybe they would have went ahead and at least brought that game into overtime. Also, Kansas City. It appears it's going to continue to have that 12th man in the referees. It's just ridiculous. We saw it much of last year, definitely towards the beginning of the year. So many penalties that were not called, so many penalties that were called on the other team. It was just nonsense. And Lamar Jackson. But you can't throw. It's the same thing I always thought. Lamar Jackson and this Ravens team, they're your Super Bowl pick. They're not winning a Super Bowl with that type of performance. They should have won the game. But Lamar just can't throw the ball. Had so many receivers. Towards the end of the game, that throw to likely had a wide open receiver and just botched it. Time after time, the accuracy is atrocious. He's going to rely on those legs, and those legs are not going to carry him healthy throughout the season.
So my take on it is very simple and sweet because I did have the Ravens winning this game for obvious reasons. I'm going to give the refs the benefit of the doubt only because it's week 1. It was the first game, and I know sometimes the refs want to set the precedent for games, so I'm going to let that one slide. But I will keep an eye on it if it continues with the Chiefs. I know it did last year. Mm-hmm. As far as likely taking over, again, it's slow down, folks. It's game 1. One thing that none of us knew, at least I didn't know, Johnny, I don't know about you, but Andrews was ready to play, but he was on a snap count, and I didn't know that. So that obviously affects it. I want to see what likely does in week 2 and week 3 for that matter before I'm passing of the torch for me. And then lastly, I will say this. I was right on 2 points that I want people to think about for fantasy. Zay Flowers is going to be a wide receiver 1. Make no mistake about that. So if you have him on your team, congratulations. And then as far as Lamar Jackson, Johnny, it's game 1. He gave you 273 passing yards, 122 rushing yards, and it's just week 1. Let the team settle in. And in 4 or 5 weeks, when we start talking about possible MVPs, we'll see if his name comes back up, and we'll have that discussion again. That's all I'm saying.
I get it. You're looking at specific stats, and you're saying that. But if you saw the game,
no, I did. I'm just saying.
You saw him miss just a key throw, not just 1 or 2.
No, I got you.
Key moments.
I got you.
Is in Baltimore. The things he's referencing Andrews, and we weren't sure he's a snap count. The issues with Andrews is the same issue. He's always injured, and your greatest ability is availability, and it's always an issue, man. So no, and so you can say what you want. It's a passing of the torch because Andrews is going to have health issues all year. Week 1 and it begins. It's going to continue.
We'll see. We'll see if it continues. That's what we love about this, and why week 2 is right around the corner. Speaking of sloppy games, because I thought it was a sloppy one as well, Johnny. You got the Eagles and Packers that played in Brazil. We all know about the field and what all the troubles that caused. At the end of the day, the Eagles win 34-29. How did you see this one?
Even despite the loss, listen, Jordan Love looked pretty good, man. I'm watching this guy. I'm like, this guy is pre-injury Aaron Rodgers. That's how he looked to me. Obviously, he ended the game on that injury, so we'll see. He could be out for a few weeks. They went to he's going on the IR. Then it's like, no, now it's going to go ahead. It's going to be doubtful for a few weeks. So we'll see. Either way, he hurt his leg, and essentially the last play of the game. And it's clear that the Eagles, they're actually moving the entire offense through Barkley. So Hurts, that's what appears to me when you're looking at it. They're no longer like, hey, we're going to go rely on Hurts or we're going to do something with it. No, they're their whole offense, Barkley, and it worked out for them. So Hurts still had a chance to shine when all the weight is on Barkley. My concern is that you're putting way too much weight on the shoulders of that running back. Can that system be sustainable through 17 weeks? But week 1, it worked great.
So, again, week 1, I'm always going to tell you this. I don't want to just jump the bandwagon and go that far. What I will say, Johnny, and I agree with you here to this point, is that I think that they don't want Jalen Hurts to run the ball outside the pocket much. Mm-hmm. And so for that regard, yes, they're going to run it through him in that regard. A lot to be excited about if you're an Eagles fan. I'm glad so far for at least week 1, my predictions are right on Barkley, on Brown, on Hurts in general. A lot of sloppy play because of that field. And the biggest takeaway for me was afterwards. The injury to Love. But if you saw what the field looked like afterwards, that was terrible. So hopefully going forward for these international games, Johnny, hopefully they make a change and they address the field first before the stadium kind of thing. Because this can't happen again.
It happens every time when the NFL played in Mexico. When they have international games, it's always when they play in London. It's always an issue because you're never going to you don't have access to that field throughout the entire year.
But they should jump on that, I think. Like take precedent over the stadium. Like, let me talk about this field for a moment. This is a soccer field versus a football field, right? That's the whole thing. So I don't know.
You're not wrong. But the issue is that they did the best they can under the circumstances.
Sure.
That's the best field you're going to get if you're playing that one game. Even though they have, a year in advance, they know they're going to play there or 6 months or whatever it is. They made it the best they possibly can, but it's a secondary field. It's something they use for another team in another country. So it's never going to have the same standards as what we have here in the States for these teams. These are billion-dollar organizations, and they obviously take care of their field, whether artificial or natural. But they import their grasses from all over the world. They do everything crazy.
Yeah.
I think this is the best. You're going to always have this issue for international games, and we're going to have to roll with it.
Jordan Love, get well soon, my friend, because I think he's going to have a great year this year if he can stay healthy. As far as the next game that goes, brother, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Atlanta Falcons, where you and I deferred on this game.
Correct.
At the end of the day, Fields ended up playing. Pittsburgh Steelers win 18-10. How'd this one work?
Well, the Steelers' defense, man, that defense is never not good. It's year after year after year. That defense just shows what's up. The Falcons, they showed flashes of the team that I thought they're going to be, but at the end of the day, you got to respect Tomlin. You got to respect this Pittsburgh team who put up the defensive effort. They really defensively kind of won this game. There's 2 questions about this particular game I have to ask you, Chris, as I keep hearing it over and over again. One, after week 1, I'm already hearing whispers. Should Falcons already consider moving on and to put in Penix with the performance? That's I'm hearing that. No. Two for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Did Fields do enough to earn that starting role?
For Kirk Cousins, you can't even if you wanted to. He's like the Deshaun Watson, if you will, of the Atlanta Falcons.
Not that bad, but yes, it's bad.
In the sense that you gave him all this guarantee. So for this year, no matter what, this is not going to be Penix's team. Forget about that. You can bank your money on that. This is Cousins' team, barring an injury. With Fields, he's already been named the starter for this week, so he's going to start week 2. I know we talked about they're going to Denver. We wanted him to play, but it's been confirmed that Fields is starting. So to answer your question, it's going to depend on this game. If Fields this game has a touchdown or 2, minimizes the interceptions and the turnovers, he's going to be the starter for this team.
Well, he's named the starter because Russell's not ready yet. That's the thing.
But that's the thing. That's what you hear.
I mean, I don't think he did enough to guarantee himself the number one.
Can I say one thing about that Russell Wilson thing? Russell Wilson is the only player, man. Go back and look at the tape. He was inactive. He wasn't going to play, and he's fully dressed. He's fully dressed in his gear to help out, to listen through the mics. I mean, come on, man. So he can play. He can play week 2. He's not, and there's a reason why. That's all I'm saying.
Now, I think if Russell Wilson was 100% healthy, if he was ready to go, he would be in there. Fields didn't play horrible, but they were all field goals. Boswell, all field goals, 6 field goals. You didn't account for anything offensively, Fields, but more importantly, you didn't turn the ball over.
Right,
so you did not turn the ball over.
Right.
So, all right, thumbs up to you, but that's the same thing we've seen from Pittsburgh. They need a quarterback that can generate offense. So if Fields, he's going to start his name, but I'm telling you, if Russell Wilson was, I'm ready to go, they're going to bring in Russ. But since he's not, they're going to go at Justin Fields or go ahead. Now, yes, to your point, he can solidify it.
Yeah.
He needs a good offensive performance.
This week he goes for 200 yards, all right, low 200 yards, gives you a touchdown and no interceptions, and I think at that point you already make the argument for him to start week 3. That's all you need to do, Fields. Get a win, 200 yards in passing, decent QBR rating, and maybe a touchdown. That's all you need to do.
I think you need a couple touchdowns. I think you need the high 200s and 280s and up. You need to go ahead and solidify it, because right now you're still competing. Dude, it's like when in boxing, you're the challenger going against the champ. You're relying on the judges? No, you got to knock them out. So if you're right now, you have the backup in Russell Wilson, who is a Super Bowl champion, who has shown he can do it. There's so many question marks with you. Are you a bust? Are you not? You better solidify. This is your shot. You had your shot in week 1, and you didn't do a whole lot, but you got the win.
Listen. He did. That's the most important part, number 1, Johnny. But number 2, you got to remember, a week ago, Russell got hurt. So for him to perform the way that he did is not bad. So I'm glad he's getting. I'm glad he's getting another start.
Well, you want to make sure that you're the reason for the win. You're not winning despite your challenges, and that's what happened in week 1. I feel Fields. They won despite Justin Fields. Now, take that victory, earn that victory in week 2, and solidify your starting role.
That's fair. Look, we've got a lot of more games to get to, but just one last question here, because remember, this was also Kirk Cousins' first game as a Falcon. Mm-hmm. I said, and I stood by it, that it's going to take a few weeks. I even said that the Falcons may be the better team 6 weeks from now, but right now they're not. Clearly you were not impressed by this week 1 for the Falcons.
No, I mean, You saw the flashes. Pitts, oh my God, he finally showed up. Something people forgot they even drafted him. So Robinson had some flashes, but nobody was great, nobody outstanding. Cousins was still a little slow. He kind of looked to me a lot like how Rodgers with the Jets, but I get it. He's never been the guy. He's a Tom Brady type quarterback, pocket quarterback.
Right.
You're not going to expect him to scramble or move. And he's definitely not able to at this point. But they're going to put it all together. But, man, you can't sleep on that Steelers defense. And Watt was amazing.
Hey, and good kudos to the better coach that won. Moving on to another guy that likes to scramble, the Buffalo Bills. They pulled it off, Johnny Cinco. They beat the Cardinals 34-28. How did you see this game?
No other game was more disappointing for me this past week here. That was a joke. I mean, Tennessee was up 17-0 in this particular game.
Tennessee, Bills and Cardinals, 34-28.
Oh, I was like the Tennessee and Bears game on that. I jumped ahead on that one there. But
go.
This was those 2 games, but the first one here, Arizona and Buffalo, same thing. Arizona owned this game. It was done. We were watching, like, oh, man, look at this. Mm-hmm. Arizona is taking complete control of this game. And then Arizona kind of reminded me kind of a lot with the Jaguars, to where, like, all right, we got it. We're going to turn this culture around. We're going to switch it and winning culture. And then they remembered, oh, yeah, we are the Arizona Cardinals. And they choked this game away. Now, Allen had an amazing game, and he came back. Yeah. And Allen, like I said before, Allen's going to have to have like a Tom Brady-esque season in order for Buffalo to maintain the reins in the AFC East. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but he needs that for it to continue.
Right.
Solid week 1 performance. But can he continue this? I don't know. But the Cardinals, they choked almost as bad as the Jaguars did.
That's actually excellent analysis, Johnny, because I couldn't say it better myself. It was the third quarter killed this team. You had everything going for yourself. You had everything going, and then the third quarter killed you. An outlier for me, I said this before week 1, Johnny. I said, how is this Buffalo offense going to look? How are they going to mesh? And guess what? They didn't really mesh. Josh Allen just took over.
Yes.
And so my question is, do you think he can do this all season long? I don't think he can. I mean, I don't know, man.
I don't think he can. That's why I said in order for the Bills, who have fallen off on paper, for them to go ahead and solidify what they won, 5 straight AFC East. In order for them to solidify that, they're going to need that type of performance. Tom Brady did it with white receivers, no names, a bunch of people nobody thought anything of. Wes Welker was released from Miami Dolphins when they came to the Patriots there. We had Julian Edelman was a quarterback from Kent State that we drafted and turned him into a wide receiver. Hogan was just somebody Buffalo just wanted released, and we picked him up and made him a Super Bowl champion. Yep. So these are all no-name white receivers that somehow we finished it up. So that's the same type of thing that Buffalo and Allen is going to have to do since they lost Diggs, they lost all their key pieces there. Yeah. So we'll see. I do not think they can continue that throughout the season, but
no, that's the thing we're going to see, and it gives them time. And everybody said before, like, I think he was voted the most overrated, but guess what? He did his thing this time, so
yes,
that was good to see. Moving on to the Chicago Bears and the Tennessee Titans, Johnny Cinco, where the Chicago Bears I don't know how they did it. I don't know. I mean, I watched the game, so I know how they did it. But it's like Caleb Williams did absolutely nothing for this win. He got his gold medal for the Olympics for doing nothing like Halliburton. Chicago Bears win 24-17. How did you see this one?
I mean, I jumped ahead, and you guys heard a little bit how I feel about this game. The most disappointing game for me. Tennessee, 17-0. They were complete control of this game. And then 2 defensive touchdowns, 1 special teams, 1 defensive pick six. Just turned this game around. Caleb Williams did nothing. What did he have, 96 yards? He threw less than 100 yards, no touchdowns. It was...
Yeah, 93 yards, yeah.
Like, you and I can throw 93 yards in an NFL game if we really have to. And so this guy went ahead and the whole game did nothing. That defense, the Tennessee defense, held the Bears to under 200 total yards. You hold the team to less than 200 total yards and you still lose. And then at the end, with Mayo Levis, crunch time, fourth quarter.
That was terrible.
And he does the worst pick six I think I've ever seen. It's like, what are you doing? He just throws a duck in the air as he's falling. Catch the easiest, just gave away the game to Chicago. Was not impressed with Chicago in this game. The defense, I mean, of course, the defense, hey, looks amazing. But we
did they though? Did they, or did Levis make them look amazing?
Okay, I get it. But you can say what you want, but still, I mean, they won the game on field goals and essentially 2 defensive touchdowns. So offensively, it was a joke. I was offended by their offense. Dude. That's how bad it was. But yeah. I got to give credit to that defense. But really, this is just a complete choke job by the Tennessee Titans, who are a really good team. They just didn't show it on Sunday.
Yeah, you're winning 3 quarters of football, right? And then you just implode. And basically, Will Levis did his best Bryce Young impression. I mean, that's really, and I'm sorry to be so bad on this kid because we'll talk about him here in a little bit. But, I mean, that was just terrible. And this season, Johnny, I'm high on the Titans. I'm high on what they're supposed to do this year.
Likewise.
So I'm hoping that he shakes it off. I'm hoping it's just the week 1 jitters, not a sophomore slump, But we'll see how that plays out. Moving on to the next game that caught everybody by surprise, Johnny, where the New England Patriots, they win. They beat the Bengals at home 16-10. What in the world happened in this one?
Well, I mean, as a Patriot fan myself, a lot of Pats fans are getting high on this one here.
We know.
It's the first game jitters for the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, the Patriots, that defense looks good.
We're stealing my stuff.
It's they do look good. Oh, you created the first game jitters.
I just said it.
So still stuck in my brain. So that's really what it was. I expect Cincinnati to bounce back from this. The biggest takeaway from this particular game is that the Patriots finally, I think the first time in a long time, have since Corey Dillon have a solid guaranteed RB1. Because the Patriots for the longest in the Belichick, they would have a running back by committee type of thing. You can never rely on that running back. Stevenson had a solid performance. You can see that under Mayo that they're going to go ahead and run that rock. And Stevenson is a proven solid back for the Patriots. And the Patriots, hey, the defense is on point. There were flashes there, but offensively, still it's a bit of a mess. But that defense really just held down the Bengals. So respect to them. But moving forward, I see the Bengals making a recovery. First week jitters, and the Patriots, as the season progresses, to wear down and really show how young this team really is.
Let's call this game what it is, what it was, okay? And that's this. Week 1 is unpredictable. I'm tired of saying it, but it's the truth. And this is a perfect example of it. Because you agree with me, the Bengals are still a playoff team, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so there's nothing for us to be, ring the bell on. Now, as far as the Patriots, Johnny Cinco, I got the Patriots winning more games this season. I know I've said that before.
Yes.
I've got them winning between 5 and 7. The rest of the NFL says 3 or less. So are you willing to now side with me that they're going to win 5 or 7 games?
No, I mean...
Or are you sticking with your
under... I'm still hoping for 3.
Wow.
Because, listen, I'm a fan. Like, there's fans that we know of any team that, I get it. You just want your team to win, For me, especially...
Quinn, we're looking at you.
Especially being, a fan of America's team...
It's not America's team.
Okay. We're so used to this domination and winning. Yep. And I'm like, no, I want to see our team set up for success. I don't care about winning 5, 6, 7, 8 games. That's not going to set us up for success. For me, I'll take the hit. We took a hit last year. I'll take the hit one more season, and then the true rebuild begins. We have Drake May. We'll see what we're going to get from him, but I want a top 3
And that's
pick.
what I was going to say. Not if Brissett has anything to say about it, because if this is basically what Brissett did. He won, so he earned another week with the job before Drake takes over. So hey, good for him. The Houston Texans, Johnny Cinco, they go in to Indianapolis, where we said they had a very good team coming in this season with Richardson. They win 29-27. Indianapolis goes 0-1. They lose at home. How did this game go?
For me, one of the best games of the week.
We called it. We said it was going to be.
I enjoyed that game very much. It's clear that Diggs is going to work for Houston. He is going to be a problem, but in a good way. We were concerned about him being a problem the bad way. It's only week 1, but, man, he did look good. I guess my biggest takeaway from this particular game is that while Richardson looked good, I expect him to look good, Indianapolis Colts, like outside of Richardson, the Russian attack felt flat. So I was concerned with that attack. They have the offense. I thought Jonathan Taylor was going to do a lot more. The offensive line is good, but ultimately it's flat. So they got to figure that out, because while Richardson did rush, he was their top rusher, and he did look good. It didn't look great. So we'll see, but overall, the Indianapolis Colts are going to have a good year this year.
Yeah, the game delivered, right? I agree with you 100% on that. And again, it's week 1, so take everything with a grain of salt. An outlier for me was kind of like Barkley, Johnny. This is crazy, right? If you look at the stats, 30 carries, 159 yards for Mixon. So there's another running back who found a home and is being used unlike I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. So will it continue? I don't know. But again, it's good to see that Mixon still has it and he delivered. So that's another outlier there for me. As far as Houston, I'll put a bow on it with this. And you kind of already leaned into it. You got Mixon, Diggs, Stroud, and Nick Collins and Dell. Don't sleep on Houston, man. Holy smokes. That's going to be a tough team this year.
Yeah, Nico Collins is legit.
Mm-hmm. You got the Carolina Panthers, talking about an elite team that is not elite, the complete opposite, trash rather. The Carolina Panthers, Johnny, they get destroyed. They lose 10-47 to the Saints. This is normally a divisional matchup in the NFC South. That's usually a close game regardless of the records, but they just got annihilated. How did this game go?
I guess my takeaway here, I didn't think it was possible for Carolina to have a worse season than last year. I'm like, no, it's coming in. And then after seeing week 1, it's like, it's possible. It's definitely possible. Your boy from Tampa cannot coach, like I had warned. He didn't know what the heck. He looked lost, deer in headlights. Every play was wrong. Nothing worked. Offense, defense, it was a mess. So you can blame this kid if you want. I don't blame Bryce Young. This coaching staff that won the last year and this year, they don't know what the heck they're doing. So that's my biggest takeaway regarding Carolina. The Saints, they played Carolina, so I'm not going to sit here. But this is the first time I've seen, I don't think I've ever seen a demoralizing loss in week 1. Wow. And Carolina, they're coming off that horrendous year last year. They're coming into whole new hopes and dreams. Nobody's expecting Carolina to win the Super Bowl, but you think you're going to move in the right direction. And it's not about losing week 1. It's how they lost week 1. Chris, that was a demoralizing loss. Week 1 by Carolina, nosedive. At least this year, when they lose, they get to keep their pick.
It was 0-17 in the first quarter, right? Talk about how demoralizing. That's terrible. Some just highlights for me real quick is you got year 2 of Derek Carr. I said this going into the week. You see that offense is running on all cylinders. Again, this may change week 6 or 7, Johnny, but I've said this, that the NFC South is going to run through the Bucs and through the Saints, not through Atlanta. So far, this is what it's looking like. Again, it's week 1, so we're not going to overreact, but just calling it for what it is. And then the last thing for me, there's a lot of fantasy disappointment, folks. It's week 1. Don't jump off the bridge, right? Chris Olave, he did not perform like we expected him to. And it's ironic because you have 47 points, which that's an outlier.
Everybody performed for the Saints, except
what that means though. What that means though, folks, is what? That it's week 1. So hang on to him. He's a must start this week. Don't overthink that. That's just another outlier I want to throw out there. The Saints will probably score maybe 20 or 30 points this week, and he'll have his stats. So don't worry about that.
The thing is that I get what you're saying. He's a must start because he's still he's
wide receiver 1, brother.
He's wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, when you have a game,
you got to remember they did this to the Panthers. It's not gonna.
No, it's fine. Yeah, the point I'm making, that's you referenced Olave in this offense. Yeah. This offense was open. They were just doing whatever they wanted. So you can do whatever you want, and then especially as a wide receiver 1. those are the games you want to stat you want to pad your stats, and kind of figure that out, because that's how you make your money. You want you want to go ahead, and they couldn't get the ball to Olave. He couldn't get anything going on. So I'm like, and he wasn't really looking. He didn't have as many targets.
I was gonna say they didn't really play him in the third and the fourth quarter snap counts the way because they were winning by so much too. So you got to put all that into the equation, right?
Yes. So he didn't get the attempts, but. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. When you see something like that, and it's like, oh, it's time to make my money. Maybe we'll get my stats, and it just didn't work out. It was week 1, but it was. We have different.
It's an outlier. It was an outlier.
We'll see how this week happens. Opinions of wide receiver 1. You think Olave is gonna have a great year?
If this week, let's be transparent. I have no problem, right? I'm the champ last year, fantasy football. Always gotta call it out there once a show. If this week he does not bounce back, I will give you the floor tomorrow, the following week to rail me and all that good stuff.
Whoa. All right. Check that. All right. Go ahead. Please move on, sir.
Speaking of teams that got railroaded, Johnny Cinco.
Okay.
We expected this as well. The Giants, they lose to the Minnesota Vikings 28-6. You have two teams, just real quick. One that's got a high-paid quarterback in Daniel Jones, and a quarterback that's a journeyman at this point in Sam Darnold. And the Vikings win 28-6. How did this one go?
I mean, my biggest takeaway in this particular game was what I thought coming into the game, to where Sam Darnold looked good. I was like, Sam Darnold doesn't look bad, and he did. He continued. He wasn't amazing, but he managed the game well. It was the Giants. The Giants are who we thought they were, which is terrible. And only thing I can come away from this particular game is that it's the countdown to when this Giants coach is going to be fired. Ooh. And I only put that countdown there because truly what it is, it's the countdown to Belichick's return. Belichick's coming back next year. And Belichick right now, you're here to hear first from Johnny, FM Sports, that Belichick is come back and he's going to play for New York. Now, is he going to play for the New York Giants, or is he going to come and coach the New York Jets? Because those are the two teams that come back, depending. We're going to talk more about everything else there.
We will. That's a statement.
Those two teams, obviously, he was won Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator for the Giants. He was the Jets coach for about 5 minutes before the Patriots stole him. So I think that's where he's going to go. So that's really comes down to, that's a little sample for you guys, that the countdown for Belichick.
Wow. I was talking about this game, how this game was. It just goes out of left field. Oh, my God.
That game was
Can I get my prediction where it's going to go? Cleveland Browns. That's he
already was there.
And exactly, Cleveland Browns, because they need something. They need a spark there. But no, but going back to this game, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. There's two quarterbacks in the NFL that are starting right now that are just broken. And the reason why I say that they're broken is because they're young enough. They're in their prime. It's not age. They're broken. And that broken could be mentally. That broken could be spiritually. They're broken. And Daniel Jones is one of them. It's not a coaching problem for me because the coach is 15-19 with Daniel Jones. So, coach, if you want to keep your job, Johnny made a good point. You're going to get fired if this continues. So if you want to keep your job, get rid of Daniel Jones. I know you can't. I know the money. I know the GM. I know the GM hired you. I get all that. But at the end of the day, brother, you want to save your job. Daniel Jones is broken. You need to get rid of him.
Who's the other guy?
Oh, the Italian guy. Remember the...
You said there was two quarterbacks that were broken or something like it's like.
Oh no, we'll get. We'll get
we're gonna get to that. That's what I mean. That's what I meant. I know the backup is that.
Yeah,
the Jersey kid. Like, hey, it's was it Tommy Coldcuts or whatever?
Yes. Yes.
But no, okay, gonna get to that.
And then
gave us a little teaser there.
Absolutely.
All right.
And then kudos to Sam Darnold and the Vikings. Again, great coach. I said I went with the coach on this one as well. I believe that they got a right system in there. And of course, when you have Jefferson on your team, he just elevates your whole team. So great win for the Vikings, starting 1-0. Speaking of a team, Johnny, that is 1-0, a coach that is back in football, in the NFL football rather, the Los Angeles Chargers. They win 22-10 against the Raiders. Where again, I know you were high on the Raiders, Johnny Cinco. 10 points is all they gave you. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, it's clear that Harbaugh is going to run this team like he did his team in Michigan. It's going to be defense, run first team. And he has a Pro Bowl quarterback, but they're not going to rely on Herbert to be thrown for 50 passes, 400 yards. They don't need that. I mean, Herbert had a very modest game, but they won this game handily based on their defense and rushing. J.K. Dobbins is a beast. That dude rushed for like close to 150 yards. He did very well, and this is how he's going to run this team, much like the Michigan team, like I mentioned previously. And the Raiders, they're disappointing, but they really lost this game due to the 3 turnovers. Offensively, they didn't do good, but you can't turn the ball over 3 times to a solid defensive team and a team that can run the ball, that can maintain that time possession and expect to win. So Raiders, clean that up, please. And the Chargers, which are not going to make the playoffs, but, man, they're in the right track. They're going to try to win the old school way. And you're going to do that with a solid quarterback.
Yeah.
It should be interesting how that works out. Get a receiver, please, though. Please get a receiver. But
I couldn't have said that better. I couldn't say that better. Like you're absolutely right. Like you could be really deadly, right? Having Herbert as your quarterback that could do whatever at any time, but you're running the ball. I couldn't have said that better myself. And what about the Raiders? I know again, week 1, we don't want to overreact here, but what do you think about the Raiders? Are you still high on them? You had them winning X amount of games.
Well,
after seeing this, what do you think?
I still think they can sneak into the playoffs. My biggest problem with the Raiders, they lost this game. They couldn't get anything moving. Why? Because of the 3 turnovers. When you turn the ball over 3 times and those turnovers can turn into points, you can never really get going. So ultimately, they lost this game because of those 3 turnovers. So protect the ball, and you can give yourself a shot. But week 1. The new full-time coach, there's players. Minshew managed the game well, had a touchdown, had that interception, a couple fumbles, in the Raiders. But ultimately, protect the ball and you give yourself a shot. They'll clean it up.
For the Raiders, Lorenzo, I expect a better running game this time. Doing 13 for 44 yards is not enough, and I know that sometimes that has to do with the play. And then ultimately, I said this in the beginning of preseason. I'm going to say it again. We are now officially in Minshew watch. He's going to get
already.
He's going to get another week to play this week. He's going to get to start, but we're on Minshew watch, folks, because at the end of the day, this new coach is going to be on a tight leash to produce because he's got people like you thinking that they're going to be in the playoffs. So that's why.
Well, it's just full year. They're not firing him after year 1. It has happened in the NFL. Carolina did that not that long ago.
Yeah, I know, but that's Minshew, not the coach. Minshew.
Well, I know that, but you're saying that Pierce is going to pull him because I got to win right now. I'm like, no. They don't. Their backup isn't a better option. So we'll see. But Minshew gives them the best shot to win now. So we'll see how it works out.
Speaking about young quarterbacks that may or may not be on the bubble, you've got the seasoned guy in Geno Smith, the Seattle Seahawks. Johnny, they win 26-20 against rookie Bo Nix. This game is a lot closer. I thought it was going to be a close game. Seahawks win. How do you see this one?
Well, biggest takeaway in this particular game is that Bo Nix looked like a rookie, like I expected, but more importantly, so did Geno Smith. they both look like humble rookies. I'm like, all right. Seattle's just lucky they played at home, which they dominate at home. Is a difficult place to play. But so everything I saw with Denver, I expected. Seattle, even with a new coach, looked like it was a new team. So they better figure some things out over there in Seattle because the team did not look great. But overall, it was a pretty blog-type game. But I'm more concerned for Seattle than Denver. I expect this from Denver.
Yeah, and to your point, Johnny, you've got a rookie that goes into that stadium and they lose by 6. I mean, that to me really is a story. You would expect for them to dominate, for Geno Smith to be ready to rock and roll. So is Geno Smith going to ride out the season? You think he's going to be the quarter? Remember, it's a new coach as well, so. You don't see. Okay, they're
gonna ride him because the new coach, he's safe. They're gonna ride out and see what they got in Geno. They didn't draft a quarterback, so we'll see. It's going to end up being like, Geno, you have a good year, you're fine. They're going to draft you a weapon of some sort. You don't have a good year, they're drafting your replacement.
That makes sense. Speaking of a team, Johnny Cinco, who is going to be drafting a quarterback because their quarterback is broken. The Cleveland Browns lose to the Dallas Cowboys 33-17. How did you see this game?
Well, last week we talked about we're going to get the answers, the final answers that we're looking for in regards to Watson after week 1, and we got that. Watson is trash. I didn't know. We made all excuses for him. We did whatever we want to say. And now it's like, okay, you had a full off season. There's no injury issues. You're good coming in week 1. And my God, he looked terrible. And the Cleveland Browns are now stuck with the worst contract in football. These fools. And I don't feel bad for them because you guys are idiots. Honestly, Baker led you to the playoffs. He did everything, and then somehow you guys had the opportunity to pick up this guy, even with all the red flags, massive red flags, and you still went ahead and not just gave him a contract. You paid him all the money. You could have gotten Baker, who looks amazing right now, for half the price that you're paying right now, and a kid who you drafted, a kid you guys developed. This is why I don't see Belichick going to Cleveland. You had mentioned, you teased towards that there. Is really the issue is ownership is a mess. Why the heck does Belichick want to go to a team with a terrible owner? The coaching isn't the issue. It's just the owners make terrible plays, terrible calls. They force these personnel issues, and that's why Cleveland's in the dumps. Cowboys, they look better than I thought they were, Chris. I mean, but ultimately, Dak, I didn't know Dak was going to get his money. I would have picked the Cowboys to win. Dak got his money a couple days before. What the heck, man?
You don't get to go back. You don't get to go back.
I'm just annoyed with the Browns in general, like why you guys never win, because of situations like this. And I don't feel bad for you because Watson's a mess. You guys should have known better. Your fans make excuses for him. Owners will make excuses for him. And now you're stuck with that mess. Good luck.
So going into this one of the things that people like Johnny, and I understand why, and a lot of the pundits out there were like, hey, look, they picked the Browns because of the defense. And you said things going into the game, like all Watson has to do is be an average quarterback to win this game.
Yep.
And yet when it comes to defense, 6 sacks, 6 tackles for a loss, 2 interceptions. The Dallas Cowboy defense is the one that showed up on the road. So that's incredible to watch. There are good things for Dallas going forward. Go ahead.
No. I agree. Dallas is good. But if you watch the game, Watson was just standing there. It's like, you get the sacks because I'm like, dude, throw the ball.
No, I'm gonna get to him. That's a really good point. But going back to this Dallas team, one thing that I did say over the summer to think about was this year everything imploded on them. They couldn't re-sign people and all that. Maybe this is what's good for them. And look, at least it's just 1 week, but they got the week 1 win.
Yeah.
And going back to Watson, he's the second quarterback that I was alluding to, Johnny, that this guy is just broken, man. He's broken, man. And I'm not saying that he's a victim, so we know what he did was wrong. We know that he, morally speaking, there's nothing to question or talk about. But here's the deal. He's in the NFL now regardless. So regardless of what you think or what I think, he's playing. And so with that said, the guy's broken. You go back to his stats at Houston. He left Houston 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 9 yards average per pass. And this is the guy that Cleveland paid all this guaranteed money to. So I bring that up to say he's 28 years old. He's entering the prime of his career. What is wrong with this kid? What is wrong with him? Is it a head game? Is it a mental? Is it a heart thing? Whatever it is, the Browns are paying the price. And it's terrible. It's terrible to see, Johnny. And then as far as adding Coach Belichick, the reason why I say that is you can't move on from the quarterback. And you got to give your fans hope, right? So this next season, I could see Belichick coming in. I could see the GM saying, "Hey, guess what? You have Watson for 1 more year. If you can do something with him, great. And if you can't, no big deal. You're going to be here for the next person anyway." And I could see that kind of happening with that team.
With Watson, it's simple. The reason we're going to have a whole episode dedicated just to Watson, but I'm just going to make it short and sweet. When you give guaranteed money, 100% guaranteed money to someone who's morally bankrupt, this is what you get. You're not getting the effort. You're not getting anything else. He's getting his money, and he has all these issues going on off the field. Even a new report just came up a couple of days ago, and it's going to continue. So this is what happens there. On the Belichick note, final thing I'm going to say is that Browns it's not a bad option you mentioned there. I mentioned the Jets and the Giants, but I say the Jets just because I hate the Jets. But even if Salah, you expect to have a good year, I do not. Another team, I know we're kind of getting off tangent a little bit here, but another team that would work in the mix, more so than the Jets even. If he's not going to the Giants, Belichick is going to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, Peterson.
That would be the best team for him to go to.
Trevor Lawrence, yeah, they have a young talent
that would be
there.
The best team
Jacksonville
to go
Jaguars,
to.
Belichick, so those options there. We'll see. But it was interesting. But I'm so disappointed in the Browns.
So funny. We're talking week 1. We're talking about 4 different teams, and all these coaches that are listening to the podcast. I know they're not, but if they were listening, they'd be like, "Oh my God, my job, my job's on the line."
Belichick just texted me.
Listen, Florida Man Sports, streaming all platforms. Want to remind you guys to please like and share, subscribe. Moving on to the next team on the docket, Johnny Cinco. We're talking about the Lions. You're high on the Lions this season. I am not. They pull off an overtime win against the Rams. They win 26-20 at home. What are the highlights on this one?
Well, I mean, the biggest takeaway for me is that Puka, even despite the injury, Cooper Kupp is the number one. He's going to be the number one. He's the focus on this offense, the Rams offense there.
Waiting for that one.
So you had a bunch of people saying something otherwise. I'm like, I'm not knocking Puka, but obviously the injury, which people talked about, he injured it like the practice before the season started to look out for this. But Cooper, who essentially won the Triple Crown the year before, Yeah, had one year of injuries, and people kind of lost hope and forgot how great this guy is, and he just reminded you how great he is. And for me, the Detroit, they won a tough game, dude. This was a tough game, and that's what you need to do for my Super Bowl champions this year. You have to win these tough games, and they proved in Week 1 that they can.
So it's funny. The NFL, just like in life, it's to the eye of the beholder. Because while you say you saw this tough game and this and that, I saw a team that barely beat a Rams team that may not make the playoffs this year.
You don't think so?
They may not. They may not.
They didn't look good to you?
Well, let me tell you, I have the Bucs ranked higher than them.
Okay.
And so, therefore, I don't know that they may or may not make the playoffs. The point being is, I see this completely different. You went to overtime with a team that is not that good, and you were at home. So, again, it's in the eye of the beholder. That's the way that I saw this game. So, rah-rah coach wins Week 1. Nothing to see here. I expected that. You're just very lucky and fortunate, my friend. Talking about Nakua, ultimately he got hurt, right? So, of course, your wide receiver is going to shine in Cooper Kupp, and he was drafted second. I was right about that. He's just having a better Week 1 because of the injury. So, but
you're correct that most people who were fools went ahead and drafted Puka.
99% of drafts did. So,
yeah, we're fools who drafted Puka ahead of Cooper, and I urged our fans, do not draft Puka ahead of Cooper Kupp.
I was indifferent. I didn't have an opinion.
I'm sorry. So thank you for bringing up how right I actually
I didn't
was.
have an opinion. I just called what it is.
Listen, the Bucs are always going to have a difficult game against a team like the Saints because it's the rivalry. Same thing here. Detroit, as long as Stafford is playing for the Rams, that game is always going to be tough. It doesn't matter what the records are. That game is always going to be tough. There's always something here. So you can sit here and say, oh, that wasn't a tough game. The Rams are not. That's a difficult game to win, and they found a way to win. If you look at
the power rankings and you look how they went into Week 1, and you're looking at because all we have is on paper. Again, it's Week 1.
Nobody cares about that.
No, it's Week 1. Then,
not a rivalry
then it shouldn't have been this close. That's all.
A rivalry game like this.
It shouldn't have been this close.
We've seen seasons where the Bucs were dominant and the Saints weren't, and vice versa. And those games are always tight because rivalry games always have that. While they're not in the same division, with Stafford on this team, since it's happened every single time the Lions face the Rams, it's always a tough rivalry game. So the fact that they won it in the fashions they did shows that they're championship pedigree Lions.
We'll agree to disagree. Moving on to the last game, Johnny Cinco, Monday Night Football, because football is back to put a bow on a great Week 1. The San Francisco 49ers, they win 32-9, convincing fashion, 32-19 against the Jets. How did you see this one?
Well, despite the loss, I mean, listen, Rodgers didn't look terrible. He really didn't. Thank you, sir. Like, he did not look bad. I mean, they lost. You saw flashes of old Rodgers, and it's kind of like, okay, you can do that. But, man, this San Francisco team was just dominant. And they were just a much better team. So, on every aspect, the secondary, the O-line, defensive line, everything, the quarterback play, running back play, everything. CMC wasn't even playing. Obviously, you had Jordan Mason take over, first time coming in here, and that dude just lit it up there. And I guess my biggest takeaway from this particular game is that you're looking at Jordan Mason with 147 yards. That's not my biggest takeaway. The fact that 97 of those yards were produced untouched. The dude ran 100 yards, essentially, untouched. This offensive line for the Niners is no joke. I mean, I give a lot of credit to Christian McCaffrey. I'm not saying that dude is the best back in the league, but the fact that this offensive line gave essentially a nobody 100 yards of untouched yardage, rushing yards, dude, this San Francisco team is going to do something serious, especially on the ground.
So, again, this kind of goes back to those games that I say you kind of see it's in the eye of the beholder because I'm not going to take anything away from San Francisco. What they showed with McCaffrey being hurt, it's just how deep they are as a team. Yeah. They're going to be scary, and I picked them again, right? I picked them to go deep this season as far as the Super Bowl goes. So I take nothing away from those 32 points, well earned. That being said, I also did say that the Jets this year, Johnny, are going to win their division.
Yep.
Look, let's be real. Rodgers looked every bit his age. He looked like this is the first game back from an injury. He was kind of hobbling. He wasn't really running. And even with that said, up until the third quarter, Johnny, you could still see it was somewhat of a close game. I know I got out of hand in the fourth, but in the third, it was still a close game. So give the Jets some credit for going back into Week 1 with Aaron Rodgers coming back from an injury. They did okay. 19 points is okay. They're going to be fine. I see them as trending up, even though they lost this game.
Yeah,
not taking away anything from the Niners.
The Niners. I would imagine, are going to probably finish number 1 in the power rankings. They look that good, so we'll see. The Jets, yeah, of course they're going to go up. They lost, but listen, I don't know what you expected from Rodgers, but I saw what Rodgers can do, and even the interception was right there. It's bounced off good defensive. It's elite defensive play caused these issues, but a lot of missed catches by receivers. It's clear that Wilson is the number 1 wide receiver on these Jets. Lazard ended up getting some
100%.
touchdowns, but Wilson's the dude. So you saw what they wanted. The timing's there. Certain things are in place. I guess Rodgers isn't going to be running like he used to. He doesn't need to. Tom Brady never ran, and he still won championships.
If Rodgers can get into a groove and stay healthy, I want to see what this team is going to look like come week 5, week 6. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's on paper, it's great, but like I said, the only reason I picked against the Jets is because they're the Jets. The Jets always find a way to lose. On paper, they look good. Even looking at that loss, they look good. I saw the things that, okay, this is a better team. However, this team, can they beat the Bills from what I saw in Week 1? No. They couldn't even beat the Patriots from what I saw in Week 1.
Wow.
So we'll see how things turn out, but I expect the Jets to collapse because they're the Jets. Oh, guys, we enjoyed Week 1. We're all excited.
Yes.
Week 1 was amazing football.
We ripped the Band-Aid, yes.
It was something. We were talking about this, but still, really, there was only like one. Even the snooze fest was Carolina and the Saints. Every other game
Giants game was a little too.
But I enjoy watching the Giants kind of get stomped on. So ultimately, it was a great first week, but it's time to move on to Week 2. Now, Week 1. We finished 12-4. One of us finished 12-4. It's not important who it was.
Whoa,
it's really not important.
The returning fantasy football champion called last week, and Johnny, I was 12-4.
Congratulations,
and
of
what,
course, sir.
What were you, Johnny?
It's not important because we
Johnny,
all know in Week 1 it's an anomaly. I always say this all the time. It's like anybody can win.
He finished 8-8.
It's
12-4, 8-8. I want to hear it.
It's an anomaly. It's
okay.
Sometimes it's people's Super Bowl. I always say this.
Okay.
I have to say this every. I said it last show. I said it all the time. There, we know this. So we're moving on to Week 2. And like we promised, we're going to go ahead and now we put the brain trust, and we come to have one pick every week. So not to confuse you guys here on who's going to win. So you can go ahead and do your whatever you want to do. We don't condone gambling, but we know you guys do it. So we're going to lead right into, guys, the Miami Dolphins, Chris.
So hold on. First of all, please like, share, and subscribe, because for me to go into a room with him, we spent 9 hours for a hour show. I want you to think about that for 1 second. Of going back and forth and fighting with this guy to come up to an end. Go ahead, continue. All right, week 1, let's go. Let's do it.
I'm not going to a room with you for 9 hours. Let your damn mind. But we'll start it off with, of course, our Florida team here. The Miami Dolphins, a divisional game, tough game, a game Miami lost last year in the playoffs against the Buffalo Bills, Chris. Miami, Buffalo. Who is winning this game?
Yes. So you've got a team, Johnny Cinco, that is playing at home that you and I both agree that they're very tough to beat at home.
Yep.
The question is, can the Bills quarterback, the guy who's overrated, that we always say is overrated, can he do it again, and can he run and score touchdowns and pass? I don't know that Josh Allen has it in him to do this back-to-back, Johnny. So consensus for Florida Man Sports is we are taking the Miami Dolphins to win at home and to basically start the season 2-0, something that I think you're going to talk about, that they've known for this, right?
Yeah, the Dolphins, they win early. Yeah, you can almost guarantee a home game in the first 6 weeks before their bye. They're going to win those games.
Yeah.
So defensively, the Miami didn't look terrible. So in order for the Bills to go ahead and have a chance to win this game, they're going to need multiple turnovers. I don't see the Bills defense going ahead and holding the offense in check and forcing those turnovers. So unless this week Waddle gets arrested on the way to this next game here, expect the Miami Dolphins to go ahead and beat the Buffalo Bills. Jacksonville Jaguars, Chris, they're facing, look at this, it's a battle of possible future Belichick. The Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Cleveland Browns. Who's winning this game?
Well, like we said before, we think the Jaguars are the better team when it comes to both of them. I think we both agree on that. You've got a broken quarterback versus a quarterback who just got paid. At the end of the day, the Jaguars are at home. They did hold last week the Dolphins up to 3 quarters, right? And until they ultimately imploded because they didn't score any points in the third and the fourth. We are taking Florida Man Sports, the Jaguars, to win this game, go 1-0 at home, 1-1 for the season.
Correct. I don't have a whole lot of faith in the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I do have I have that little bit of faith I have. It's definitely going to go ahead and
To beat the Browns. To beat the Browns.
Cleveland
yes.
Browns. Watson is horrendous.
So right now, Florida Man Sports is 2-0. If you're, one of those gamblers, we're 2-0. Good.
Jacksonville Jaguars definitely win that game. Next game, the last Florida team we have, the Detroit Lions, Chris. They're facing your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who's winning this game?
Alrighty, folks. Florida Man Sports, we're always going to be real. He always likes to say I'm a fanboy, but I'm always going to tell you the truth. And if you watched last game, if you celebrated the Bucs win, there's one thing that you didn't celebrate, Johnny Cinco. You want to know what that is?
The injuries?
The injuries. The injuries have decimated us when it comes to the backfield. Decimated us. When you have your second string safety playing cornerback on a second year, that's a cause for concern. So Florida Man Sports, we're taking the Lions to win. They're at home. And ultimately, we have nobody. We have nobody to play cornerback. We have injuries. All of our starters are hurt. Concussion, out already out, not even questionable. So, yes, we're taking the Lions, unfortunately, to expose the Bucs and win this game.
No need to pour any more salt on the wound. The Lions win this game.
You like how critical I am on the Bucs.
Yeah, so moving on.
I'm hurt.
Them boys, Chris, they're facing the New Orleans Saints. Who's winning this game?
Listen, guys, the Saints, they proved it week 1. They're going to be an offensive powerhouse this season because of year 2 of Derek Carr, at least for a few weeks anyway. But nope, Florida Man Sports, we're taking the Cowboys to win. It is hard, just like in Hard Rock Stadium. It's hard to win for the Cowboys when they're playing at home. It's hard to defeat them, rather. So we're taking the Cowboys to win this game. And the Cowboys are starting 2-0.
Yes.
The team that you had questions in the offseason, 2-0.
There's always questions with the Cowboys because they're the damn Cowboys. But every team that faces the Carolina Panthers is going to be an offensive juggernaut. But they're not facing Carolina this week. They're facing the Cowboys.
They're going to settle down.
So, no, it's back to reality here. Cowboys win this game.
Yes.
The Indianapolis Colts, Chris, they are facing the Packers of Green Bay.
Yeah.
Who's won this game?
Both teams are 0-1. We know that. We know that the Packers are at home, but we also know that Love is not playing, right? It's, as far as today,
he's doubtful, but it's unlikely.
Even if he plays, he's not at 100%.
Correct.
I left, even though the Colts lost, Johnny, I left so impressed with Richardson if he can stay healthy. The arm that he has to throw a 60-yard bomb off his other foot, it's tremendous. So, Florida Man Sports, we're taking the Colts to win. Packers lose at home, and they go to 0-2.
Packers are a really good team, but the Packers are not going to have Love. Either if he is not going to be 100%, he's not going to be the version of the guy that we saw in Brazil. So they're better off. Please, Green Bay, just go ahead and give him a couple weeks rest. It's not worth it.
I would rest him. Yep.
But regardless, Indianapolis Colts, FM Sports calls them victorious.
Victorious.
the Jersey Jets.
Yes.
They're going ahead. They're facing the Tennessee Titans. Who's won this game, Chris?
Jets, Jets. And for the reason that I said, going back to the San Francisco game, guys, the Jets look like a good team that just got to get into a rhythm. So they're trending up. The Titans are not. I expect the Titans to win some games this year. We were high on them in the offseason. Levis has to get his stuff together. Rodgers is going to beat him, Johnny. Jets win.
One of these two teams have to rebound from a loss. You have Titans who gave away a game. And you had the Jets losing a game they were supposed to lose. But, yes, I expect the Jets to go in and rebound and win this game here. So, yes, Jersey Jets.
Based on some of the predictions, some of these teams are going to start 0-2. And don't nobody want to start 0-2 in the NFL.
Nobody ever wants to start 0-2, but it doesn't mean that your season's over. It's just a long season, so it's quite all right. The San Francisco 49ers, who most will say will probably end up being number 1 in the power rankings, they're facing the Minnesota Vikings. Chris, who's winning this game?
Don't overthink it. Vikings are at home, but we know that the Vikings have their growing pains with the journeyman quarterback in Darnold. So let's go 49ers, Florida Man Sports. Don't overthink it.
I don't know. Sam Darnold was on San Francisco last year. But, it doesn't matter. Joe Montana can somehow come back in his prime, put on a Vikings uniform, and still the San Francisco team is going to go ahead and beat them. So, no, San Francisco appears to be right now the best team in the NFL.
They're going to have to just win. I'm going to call them winning every game this year until they prove me wrong. I mean, they're just
we'll take a week per week, but yes, exactly. Something's going to have to happen here. They look dominant in every fashion. So San Francisco 49ers are winning this game. Yeah. Please, wipe your mouth, Lewis. Calm down. Okay, we get it. All right.
Until they meet the Bucs.
Yeah, the New England Patriots. They're going facing the Seattle Seahawks. The undefeated New England Patriots are facing Seattle Seahawks. Who's winning this game, Chris?
Well, I think you alluded this earlier, too, when you were talking about the quarterback and the Seahawks there looking, and Geno Smith looking like a rookie, right? I think you said that earlier.
Yes.
And nothing's going to change. The Patriots are at home. And the Patriots, folks, they're going to be 2-0. Florida Man Sports calling it that the Patriots are going to beat the Seahawks. That defense was no joke.
Agreed. Surprise. I mean, I still don't expect that many wins from New England. But for them to go, they're going to finish. Only thing they're setting themselves up for is a dramatic fall.
Losing streak?
Which is
okay.
fine.
That's all right.
Which is fine because they're going to win the first two.
That's okay.
New England beats Seattle. FM Sports. The Washington Commanders. They're facing the Jersey Giants. Chris, who's won this game?
I think that people that listen to the show and you're still listening an hour into it now, you kind of know where we lean on this because of what we said about Daniel Jones. But listen, it's not because he hates the Giants. I don't hate the Giants. I wish I could pick the Giants in this one. We talked about it. We went back and forth. At the end of the day, the Commanders are at home. They're going to win this game. Daniel Jones would have to have just a great, amazing turnaround, which I don't see it happening for the Giants to win. So Florida Man Sports, we're picking Commanders in this one.
Yeah, I mean, of course I hate the Giants. I hate the Jets. That's nothing to do with my picks. At the end of the day here, the same way you just said that you're going to go ahead and you're going to have to pick San Francisco to win every game. They look so good. I'm going to have to pick the Giants to lose every game until they show me something. So, Giants losing this game. Not because I hate them, because I do.
You very rarely make good points. That's a good point. That was a good point.
They stink. So, no, we're going to go ahead with anybody facing the Giants. Moving on, the Chargers of Los Angeles, formerly San Diego, are facing the worst team in the NFL, Carolina Panthers.
And what are the Chargers going to do, Johnny? They're going to do exactly what we said they were going to do. They're going to run the ball. They're going to have everybody ready to go. I don't care if the Panthers are at home. Panthers are going to win a game this year. I don't think they're going to go 0-0-0. But for this one, Florida Man Sports picks the Chargers to win on the road.
I'm pretty sure the University of Miami could beat the Carolina Panthers. So, yes, I'm going to go with the Chargers. The defense is good. They're going to run the ball. And if they need to, man, this team is a sneaky pick, these Chargers. They're going to run. And if somehow it's not working out, they still have Herbert. And Herbert can sling that rock. That's why this team is going to be super dangerous once they pick up one or two wide receivers, which will pick up in the draft.
Control the clock and everything, yeah.
They're going to be set. The Baltimore Ravens, your Super Bowl pick, Chris, they are facing the Raiders of Las Vegas. Who you got?
So we've got a palate cleanser, folks, already in week 2, a palate cleanser game. You're the Ravens. You're a playoff team. You're 0-1. You're like, what's going on here? Here comes that palate cleanser. The Raiders are going to the Ravens Stadium. Don't overthink this one. The Ravens get back into the winning streak. They win in a big way, winning this game. Johnny Cinco.
As much as I'm much higher in the Raiders than you are this particular year. The Raiders are going to start 0-2. But just because you start 0-2 doesn't mean the season's over. The same way with the Patriots are going to be 2-0. Doesn't mean they're going to the playoffs.
I was going to say, we called it. They're going to be 0-2. They're still going to come back and make the playoffs.
They're going to be all right. At the end of the day, the Ravens, there's a better team. Lamar Jackson, I don't want to hear about him. I don't want to hear his MVP.
This game's gonna have like 300 yards.
Yeah, but the thing is that these are the stat games. He'll get his stats from this game like this, and then he had a game like last week to where, all right, you get some stats, but he's not winning key games. He finally won a playoff game, but still, Lamar Jackson isn't going to win you a Super Bowl. Sorry, but you are going to beat the Raiders. So that's definitely happening. The Los Angeles Rams, Chris, they are facing the Arizona Cardinals. Who we got?
Yeah, another pair of 0-1 teams going at it, right? And then Johnny and I, again, we had 9 hours together. We fought on this one. He actually bent my arm on this one. I wanted to take the Cardinals, but Florida Man Sports. Florida Man Sports is picking the Rams. And Johnny, we trust. Hey, listen, he had to take some of my teams. I have to take some of his. And I understand why we're picking the Rams here. I understand why.
I see what you did.
I understand why we're picking the Rams here, because ultimately Johnny still believes, and I that they're a playoff team, and I'm very high on the Cardinals. But Cardinals are going to go 0-2. They're going to lose. Florida Man Sports picks the Rams.
Chris is a douche. The Rams. Kyler Murray, we expected to have a better year this year, and he showed flashes of it, but also choked. The Rams.
He's so small running.
The Rams are going to win. Why? Something I've always say. They're better coached. They have a better coach. So we know that when you have a better coach in a game like this, that prevails. So that's the same thing that happened with the Steelers and Falcons. It's going to happen here with the Rams and Cardinals. Rams, better coach, better QB. They got Cooper Kupp. It's happening.
Listen, I'm being hard on you on this because you did agree to some of mine and back and forth. But look, ultimately, Johnny, I'm a man of my word. This is Florida Man Sports. I'm standing by the Rams no matter what.
Oh, is that what you're doing? Okay. Well, moving on to since you're standing by, you continue to stand by there. The Pittsburgh Steelers with Justin Fields as their starting quarterback going against your boy, Bo Nix, and the Denver Broncos. Who's won this game?
Look, guys, this is going to be a lot closer game than I think people think because look at what the Broncos did with the Seahawks this week, right? Going over there away in such a close game. So don't just think that this is going to this could be a coin flip to some people. Florida Man Sports is unanimous once again in this one, Johnny. We're taking the Steelers to win on the road. But again, this Broncos team is well coached. This Broncos team has a better has a top 3 in the draft quarterback so far in Bo Nix, and he's going to show it this week. But the Steelers will prevail. Justin Fields may keep his starting job.
Both of these teams don't have a good offense. They're not going to have a good offense in this particular game. Do yourself a favor. If you need to pick up somebody, pick a kicker for either one. Boswell, obviously, for Pittsburgh, won the game. You pick up a kicker in the fantasy. This is going to be a field goal fest. The offense on both these teams are going to struggle. They're going to get it close in the red zone at best, and you're going to have a lot of field goals in this game. So if you don't have them already, pick up a field goal. If not Boswell, somebody else. Pick up a kicker for field goals because that's what's going to happen throughout this entire game. But yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go ahead and win this game because Sean Payton isn't as good as a lot of people say he is, and this team isn't very good. And Bo Nix,
we're unanimous. We're unanimous. I'm picking the Steelers.
I know. I can still dig on Sean Payton. The Cincinnati Bengals, Chris, they're going against the defending champs, Kansas City Chiefs. Clearly, everybody has one who knows who's going to win this game. So just go ahead and share with everybody who's won this game, Chris.
Absolutely. Upset alert, folks. Upset alert. Florida Man Sports is unanimous once again. Unanimous. When we say, I felt like Trump when I said that. When I say that, ultimately, this is going to be a spoiler game. We know how Burrow likes to play when he's in the stadium against the Chiefs. So we are taking the Bengals. The Bengals that played so bad week 1, folks. Don't tune us out yet. Just hear us out. To bounce back. We said this is a playoff team. They're going to show it this week. Bengals win.
Remember, week 1 is an anomaly, guys. So with Cincinnati, what happened there, that was and the fact that Burrow, he plays very well. The best visiting quarterback in Kansas City. They're going to put it together. I mean, Chase is disgruntled a bit. He's showing up here. Hopefully Higgins, who a late scratch in week 1, is going to be playing in week 2 here. They'll have all their weapons, but Cincinnati is going to bounce back. I mean, if anything, Zach Moss looked good for Cincinnati. They're going to put it all together and find a way to beat week 1, the Kansas City Chiefs got all the calls. Hopefully all the complaints, they'll go ahead. It's similar to what happened last year. They got the calls and they figured it out and they kind of rebounded a little bit. So Cincinnati Bengals upset. FM Sports is calling it, beating the Kansas City Chiefs.
Boom.
The Houston Texans are playing the horrendously, the offensively challenged Chicago Bears.
Yeah. They have no idea how their 1-0 is going on the road to take on the Houston Texans. Don't overthink it. Texans win, probably win big, 14 points or more. I can't see unlike the Bengals, right? I can't see the Bears going out and doing a 180 and all of a sudden having 4 touchdowns on the road. So it's the Texans. It's unanimous. Florida Man Sports.
Yeah, in order for Chicago to win this game, they're going to need to put up some touchdowns, and I don't see them put up good touchdowns. Not from what I saw last week. Defensively, yes, they're going to go ahead and have some decent stops, but they're not going to stop C.J. Stroud. They're not going to stop Mixon. It's not going to happen. This team is going to easily beat the Chicago Bears. Moving on to the Battle of the Birds, Chris, your Philadelphia Eagles, they're going to get against the Atlanta Falcons. Who's won this game?
So it's unanimous once again. This last game, folks, and again, going the rest of the season long, Florida Man Sports is going to be unanimous in its picks. We will not steer you wrong. And in this one, folks, one last one, not to overthink. The Eagles are going to fly in this one. The Falcons are going to go 0-2. They're on the road. They're still fine-tuning themselves. And Johnny's NFC Championship team is going to go 0-2. Unanimous, we picked the Eagles.
I'm going to give you a correction there, Slick. They're my NFC South champions, not my NFC champions. The Falcons.
Well, you picked them to play the Lions in the NFC Championship,
Yes,
so you got them going to the NFC Championship. I
Yes,
apologize.
okay.
I apologize.
So, I called them
0-2 going.
I called them as the NFC South champions. You said it right the first time, and then corrected yourself.
Yeah, you have them going to the NFC Championship game. Go ahead.
And winning the NFC South, yes. So by finishing 0-2 or being starting 2-0 is not guaranteeing you anything, and your season's not over. It's 17 games, folks. So you can go ahead and get Tampa is going to finish 1-1. We have Miami 2-0, and we have obviously our final team in Florida here, the Jacksonville Jaguars, 0-2. So
1-1.
Correction, 1-1.
Yeah.
So still, it's a plenty of season left here, so it's looking forward to see what's going to happen with everything. But week 2 is finished. We still have our fantasy squad going on, Chris. So
yes. And that's actually a question that I have for you, Johnny Cinco. Now, before we put the Eagles and Falcons to rest, before we put this week 2 to rest, this is our first week that we're doing this, right?
Okay.
How sure are we? Can you reassure the fans that we're going to go, winning record here? We're going to go 12-4. Like, what do you?
Oh, we're going undefeated, guys.
Okay.
I want you to understand this, guys.
You heard it.
I mean, 9 hours in a room, just analyzing, looking at everything, breaking everything down, guys.
Since we're going to be undefeated. Let's jump right into it. And in fantasy football, talking about undefeated, Johnny.
Okay.
Johnny Cinco finishes the week 1 1-0. I finish at the end 1-0. So we're both undefeated.
Yep.
And now what happens, folks? You got the waiver wire. The first week 1 waiver wire comes out. Johnny Cinco, we just want one from you, one from me. Who do they need to be looking out on the waiver wire to pick up so they can bolster their team if they're not 1-0?
Well, I'm going to pull a Chris. I'm just going to give you the 2 obvious ones that we all know. To where Isaiah Likely is obviously the tight end that's for the Baltimore that's there, and if you haven't already spoke about it with Jordan Mason who's the running back for San Francisco, 2 players that some people were smart enough to pick them right before the game, but if you didn't handcuff your Christian McCaffrey like you should have, Lorenzo, it just ends up being he's available. So if you're able to pick up Isaiah Likely, you go ahead. You're picking up Jordan Mason. Those are the 2 obvious ones here. Next level. Chris, who you got? Who's the next guy?
Yeah, and again, even though Johnny's 100% correct, that's the ones that are the most obvious. Again, please remember it's just week 1 with Andrews. I'm still a little iffy on that. I want to see. I just want to throw that out there, but you're not wrong. He killed it week 1. As far as somebody that you should be looking out for, because even after this week, he's still only rostered in 50%. I don't understand. That's Baker Mayfield. So I just mentioned to you that they're going to be playing from behind. We picked the Lions to win. So if you're looking for a top 10, top 8 quarterback this week, it's Baker Mayfield, man. He's still available unless you're like us where he was drafted in our draft. Look out for Baker Mayfield. I think, Johnny, please tell me if you agree or disagree, he has the potential of finishing top 10 this year. And if that's the case, 50%.
I mean, this dude dropped 30-plus points in week 1, and there's a lot of you guys who had Jordan Love starting that you need to bench him for the next few weeks, and there's no better pickup right now than Baker Mayfield.
Good call.
So, yes, Baker Mayfield's a solid pick. A lot of people weren't expecting much, like myself, but he shut me up, and he showed that he can deliver fantasy-wise, and he can deliver some wins. Now, regardless if he wins and loses, we picked Tampa to lose this particular week. It doesn't mean that he's not going to put up some points.
He'll be playing from behind, yep.
So let's go ahead. It's a solid pickup. He's heard it here, guys. We're going undefeated for our picks in week 2. And obviously, we're not going to let you down with our fantasy waiver wire picks. So don't forget that, guys.
Don't overthink it.
Guys, we appreciate you guys listening. Now, obviously, we're heavy football. You see the sign of NFL. That's what we're talking about here. But we haven't forgotten about baseball. Obviously, we're going to get into that in the following weeks here. Baseball, obviously, the
October, yeah.
Power rankings right now. The Yankees, Dodgers, Guardians, Phillies look great. And the White Sox are in an implosion of just traumatic. It's something to where it's sad to watch if you're a White Sox fan. But we haven't forgot about baseball. But man, football we love, and football we trust.
Yes,
so
I like that.
Please don't forget to follow us, whether it's here on YouTube, also on Twitter, X, on
Spotify,
everything here. We are available. fmmansports@gmail.com. You can go ahead and reach out with any questions and concerns. You want to go ahead and add something to the show. Or even leave some recordings we've listened to previously. But we appreciate you guys. We thank you. Florida Man Sports, we out.